Well, alrighty now. We're starting off the day with breakfast. Today we're having some oatmeal, cornbread, and coffee. Uh, kind of waiting for the mechanic to show up so we can look at the engine. As soon as he comes in, checks it out, does whatever he needs to do to it, then we'll be on our way today. We are still in Roland Martin's marina. Pretty nice marina. Nice place to stay. Uh, but we're going to go ahead and be taking off now. Now, I've decided instead of following the south end of the lake, I've decided just to go across it. Mainly because it's a little bit shorter route. And since I'm not going as fast as I was in the beginning, I got to slow down to save fuel. I figured I'm going to take the shortest route, and that's just to go across the lake. I did notice one thing about it is that when you look at Lake Okeechobee on a map, you can see that it's a fairly big lake. Uh, but you really can't imagine this thing until you go through it, like I did. And you'll see some of the videos here coming up shortly. Is that it looks like you're out in open water. I mean, you can't see land. That's how big this lake is. And even though there's, it is a lake and it's got a shoreline. It's got a lot of native vegetation that grows, a lot of grass, and a lot of it dries up fairly quick. But as you can see here I am already, maybe a mile or two into the lake already. There's still markers out here that go up to, I don't know, just a little bit under half of the lake, and then the markers disappear because it's pretty much deep water until you get close to the other shore, and then the markers will come up again. But as you can see here, I mean, you don't see land anywhere. It's amazing how huge this lake is. I always thought, well, I saw it on the map. I said, okay, well, it's actually a lot bigger than Tampa Bay is, because you could turn back and look back and see where I had just left, and you could see, of course, the land there. But as I kept going and moving, I mean, the land it disappeared. There was no land. I could have turned the boat 360 degrees and not see not one piece of land anywhere. So that kind of, surprised me, because I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, to be able to see land everywhere you go. But as I got closer, past the middle point of the lake, then you did start seeing some land. Also, there's a story about these lakes here. As you can see, I pointed the boat toward what looks to be a cloud, but it's actually smoke. And what they do is they do controlled burns here in Florida. And the reason they do it is because Lake Okeechobee has so much grass around the lake, and when it's dry and it catches fire, it can do a number on the homes and all that. So what they do is they actually do what they call controlled burns, where they actually set the grass on fire and let it burn a certain section. And they do this time in, time out. Today they did it twice while I was crossing the lake. I don't know if they did it later on in the afternoon because the wind started picking up. So they normally do it when the wind's not strong and where they can keep it contained, because if they start the fire and they don't contain it, it could take off on them, and it could burn some houses in the area and areas like that. But because it's all basically like swamps, along the edges of the lake there, it grows a lot of grass. And this grass, when it dries up, and especially now that summer's coming up, lightning has a lot to do with setting these things on fire all the time. So they figured out, well, if we do control burns now, uh, we should, when it does rain, we don't have to worry about lightning strikes and stuff like that burning up the grass, because they've burned it all. Uh, that was one control burn that I just showed you. Further up in the video, you're going to see another control burn that they did. But as you can see, this lake is huge. Uh, it looks like if you're out in the middle of the ocean somewhere. Uh, it, but it was a good day. The weather was nice. I was able to cruise along without any problems. Had the wind been a little bit stronger or something like that, you can have problems when you go out across Lake Okeechobee. It's a shallow lake. It's not deep. I think the deepest part of the lake was in the channel, and that was about 10 to 12 feet. You go out of the channel, and it gets shallow real quick. It goes down to 2, 3 feet. Some places, as I was going down, I could actually look outside and I could see the bottom of the lake. So we're only talking about 2, 3 feet there. But if you stay in the channel that they put in here, you can pretty much, because they have big boats coming in and out of here all the time. So they need to have, a minimum of about 5 to 6 feet draft, so that they don't run aground. And that's why they built these channels, to get the bigger boats in and out. I only draw 18 inches, so I don't really worry about shallow water. Although I do have my alarm set for 2 feet. For 3 feet. Anytime it goes below 3 feet, I start getting the alarm, letting me know I'm on shallow waters. Here's another control burn that they started up, and you can see they actually started 2 different areas. And again, it's done by the county, where they set up these control burns to knock off all the weeds that are dry, so that if it should rain and you get lightning strikes and stuff like that, they don't have the grass fires. Because once these grass fires, when they're dry and you catch them on fire, they spread real quick. It doesn't take a whole lot to get them to spread out. And as you can see here, they're going to burn here, and then they'll go to another section and burn another part of it, and they do this almost all year round. We're going to go ahead and cut this video short a little bit, mainly because it's nothing exciting when you're crossing Lake Okeechobee. It's just water and more water and water and more water. So we're going to fast forward to where we get closer to the bridge now. We've already entered the canal system, and which is east of Lake Okeechobee. We are now heading towards Stewart, Florida. And again, the canals are just basically what you're seeing now. Is just, every once in a while you'll see a boat coming by, a couple of bridges that you kind of go over with, and so it's a little bit boring, but I enjoy it. Get to see the wildlife. There's a bridge coming up here shortly. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this type of a bridge, but instead of opening or swinging open, this actually lifts the bridge up so that the boats can go underneath of it. This particular bridge that's coming up is actually a railroad bridge. Whenever there's a train coming, they lower this thing down so that the train can go by there and go through there. And then what it does is, once the train has gone by, they lift this thing back up again, and they leave it up open all the time, because they always get more boats coming through here than they get trains coming through here. So but it's pretty interesting how they just lift the whole rails up, the rails and obviously the tracks. They raise them up pretty high. Now, if you're higher than, if you have let's say a sailboat with a big mass on it, you're gonna be in trouble then. That's why some sailboats can't come down the Okeechobee Waterway for that reason. They have to go all the way around down south, around Miami to Biscayne Bay, and then around the Keys, and then come back up because they wouldn't be able to get past underneath this bridge. And the only other way you to do this is to take down your mast, and that gets expensive to do. So they're better off, or most people will just go ahead and take off and go keep heading south and go around all the way around Florida instead of taking the Okeechobee Waterway, which cuts, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it cuts right at about 300 miles, 250 miles. So you're saving that 250 miles. I've been to the Keys, I've been around Miami, I've been around that areas already, so I really didn't want to go down there and see that. I've already seen it quite a while. That's why I decided to go across the Okeechobee Waterway. And now I'm still now trying to figure out where this engine is going to save me some fuel somewhere along the way. I gotta find the right RPMs to run so that I can make sure I get the full range of 150 miles. If not, I'm going to have to carry some tanks with me, extra spare tanks, which I don't want to. I don't like having fuel in the cockpit area. You could get hit with lightning or something like that, and there goes the boat. Hopefully I wouldn't be on it, but either way. As you can see, we're getting closer here to this bridge, and you can now start kind of looking at it and seeing that it's suspended right now. And they have like counterweights also on the sides so that it helps with lifting it and bringing it back down. I mean, there is a lot of weight on these. You have all the tracks and rails and steel beams and everything that hold the track together. So it's pretty heavy. And as we get closer, you'll be able to see on the right and left hand side that they have counterweights there that help it make it a little bit easier. Not put as much strain on the motors that move this thing up and down. There is always somebody there on land in a small little building there that can lower this thing anytime they get the word that there's a train heading this way. And you can see now we're starting to get a little bit closer now, so if you look on the both the right and left hand side, as we start going underneath of it, you'll see the counterweights. Hopefully this thing doesn't decide to break the cables and come down while I'm going underneath of it. That would kind of tick me off. Put a damper on my trip. You can see all the way in the top, there's that big beam that's coming across. That's the actual railroad beams and the rails themselves. And the whole thing comes down, and it sits on top of, if you look to the right and to the left of those big beams there, you can see the rest of the part of the train tracks there. Now you're also able to see the counterweights that I was telling you about. You can see them. They're big counterweights that help, lift the bridge up and bring it back down again. Pretty interesting, to see that thing go up and down. But again, it's now that's an old bridge. I don't even know. Maybe it's not even functioning anymore. As I was going by there, I mean, a lot of these beams were real rusted and everything else. So I'm not sure whether that's still used or not, but Now here we go again with just the same old thing again. So here comes a boat. So basically they kind of do slow down because they see you coming one way and you going the other way. So they slow down because they know, they create a big wake. It could create problems for the smaller boats. But most people do have some courtesy and they do slow down. Boaters are pretty good about that. I did have one today on a big boat that came by and didn't bother to even slow down, and put out a pretty good wake, and it kind of lifted my boat. And then when it dropped it down, it hit bottom. The only good thing about it is that it's a sandy bottom, so I didn't really do any damage. You can see this boat right here just slowed down, so that so he could, so I could actually get across his wake, and it bounced around a little bit, but not bad, and that's what I'm saying. Have a little courtesy, slow down. I'm in no hurry to get nowhere, so I don't really I'm not speeding or anything. The other thing is, here comes another boater. The other thing about this is that after a while, you kind of learn to, like I do. I record all the videos, or I try to record the videos of the boats as they're passing me in the event that something goes wrong or there. Boaters are responsible for a wake, okay? If your boat creates a big wake and they damage something, like a dock or another boat, if you have their ID number on the boat, you can report that and you can put a claim in, and what they'll do is they will file papers on that boat owner, and he has to appear in court, because you can sue him for the damages that he caused. And that's why probably one of the reasons, boaters slow down when they're crossing each other, because if one of them should create a wake and cause damage to the other boat, they are responsible. Boaters are responsible for their wakes and any damage that their wakes create. Here I am at Indian Town Refuel. I went ahead and refueled, and I wanted to put some fuel injector cleaner in my gas tanks, but they didn't have any here. So I asked them, I said, is there an auto parts store far from here? And they said, actually, there's one about a mile away. It's a Napa Auto Parts. So they were kind enough to go ahead and let me, after I put the fuel in, they were kind enough to let me tie up at the dock and stay here and leave the boat here while I go get the fuel, the fuel injection cleaner that I needed. And while I was out there, I also happened to see that there was a Burger King there, so I figured why not? So I stopped and had lunch there. Then I went ahead and got back here on the boat and got ready to take off again. Right now, basically, I'm running the engine, and I'm getting rid of the lines here. I'm untying the lines so we can go ahead and take off again. I'll be going back out into the canal again, and then start heading toward St. Lucie lock, which is the last lock that I have to go through before I get to the intercoastal on the east side of Florida. So by tomorrow, I should be in Vero Beach, already heading north to New York on the intercoastal. So that's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a nice trip. I think I've solved my fuel problem as far as getting the range that I needed. I needed to come up with at least 150 miles, and by doing 2,500 RPMs, I'm traveling right at 8 miles an hour. So far it looks promising. It looks like I'm going to be able to get out of one tank, get somewhere in the reference of maybe 80 to 85 miles. So multiply that by 2, that's going to give me, over 150. It's going to be a little bit slower than I want. I mean, I wish I could travel a little bit faster, but fuel is expensive right now, so you can't really rush it. If You know, if money was no problem, then I wouldn't have a problem, and I'd just go ahead and speed up and take off that way. But I'm not a millionaire, so I'm on a budget. But we'll make it. I'm already tied up at the locks here. I had to drop anchor and wait till tomorrow morning. So I've already dropped anchor and I'm just waiting. I'm anchored out, so I figured I might as well work on the video and get it ready to post. Here I am going back out to the main channel and keep going. I made it as far as the last lock that I had to cross. They stop at 5 o'clock. I got here right at 4:45, 4:50, somewhere around there. And when I asked them to see if they were still opening, they said no, we just opened and closed the last one. So I had to go ahead and drop anchor, wait overnight, and then tomorrow morning when they open up, I'll be able to take off again. But it happens. Now here I thought I was going to play chicken with this boat in front of me. Turns out it's not even a boat. What it is, it's a train trestle that swings open. It's like a big wheel, a big turret wheel, like they use on the big cranes and everything that spin around. Well, they have one of that on here, and you can see the railroad tracks are on top of them, all the way in the top. And when that thing swings, it swings in the middle, halfway it goes one way, the other half goes the other way, and then it connects the railroad so that the trains can go by. It's kind of unique, kind of different to see stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that they do things around here, and I've seen that a couple times at other places where they call them the swing bridges. I don't know, how safe they are. Hopefully they must be safe. Somebody must have thought about it and said, well, what happens if this thing doesn't lock right? What happens to the train when it goes by? So I'm sure that there's something there that tells it, hey, the train won't go unless they get a green light or something, that says everything is fine. Now we're going now past another bridge here, and this is pretty much the whole trip, just the way you see it here. So it's kind of boring, but hey, I enjoy making the trip. I love it. I'm having a great time. Can't wait to start heading north toward New York on the Intercoastal. There's still, a couple of big bodies of water I have to go through. I have to go through Chesapeake Bay. That's a big area. And of course the lakes, Lake Michigan and Lake Erie are the two big bodies of lakes that I have to go through too. But like I said, I don't take off in the morning unless I check the weather. If the weather's not the way I want it to be, I don't take off. I just stay where I'm at, wait for the weather to go by, and I only take the days that I want to. I normally move Monday through Friday. I don't go Saturday and Sunday because all the other yo-hos are out there, and some of them are crazy, so I'd rather just not have to deal with them. So I take Saturday and Sunday off. I find something to do. either work on cleaning up the boat, or maybe go get groceries, or maybe do the laundry and stuff like that. But it keeps me busy. Uh, here you see another boat going by, and he was coming pretty fast, and you can see he slowed down quite a bit. He's hadn't really didn't create a big wake at all, and that's what I'm saying. You know, people, most boaters are pretty courteous about doing stuff like that. They realize, hey, you know, you could tip, you know, bounce a boat. Like I said, I had one boater that didn't bother to stop, and he actually bounced me down to the ground. Here we are at the lock that I missed. I missed it by about 5 minutes. Had I been here 5 minutes earlier, I could have gone through, and then I would have been done with the locks, and I would have been able to make it all the way to Stewart, where I wanted to be. But as you can see, what I did is I just dropped anchor, and now I'm sitting here waiting for nightfall. I'll probably just watch a movie. I'm going to finish editing this video here and get it ready to post, so it'll show up tomorrow. But it's been pretty interesting so far. I've enjoyed the trip. I'm not really sure whether I'm actually going to be able to say, hey, I made the Great Loop, but I'm going to give it a good try. You know, at least say, hey, well, at least I tried, and unless something goes wrong. Although I have put out some money on the side in case, even if I had to put a new engine in the boat, as long as the boat keeps floating, I'll be okay. If I have to, and you know, something goes wrong with the engine or something, I have to put a new engine, I can do that and keep going, you know, or even put a used engine, depending on where I'm at, how much further I still got to go. But here's a nice little park also here, a state park, and as you can see, that there's people with tents and everything. They got docks there, but I didn't know whether you were allowed to tie up there or not. So I just decided, no, I'll just drop anchor. I'm sure they do have, you know, park rangers there at the park. So, and I didn't see any sign saying that, you know, you could tie up if you're waiting to go through the locks. So I didn't want to tie up there. I know most state parks do charge you if you want to stay there. So, but this is the end of it for tonight. I should be finishing it up and posting it here shortly. So, see you all tomorrow. Bye.